Hey everyone, welcome to Made with Intention. We are two women sharing our expertise in entrepreneurship, discussing life lessons, and everything in between. Today we are discussing one of our favorite topics, business strategy. So if you're an entrepreneur or thinking of creating a little side hustle, you're a freelancer, whatever it may be, this is for you. Thank you for joining us. And hey, Candice.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm so good. It's nice and sunny in Medellin. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm so excited to talk about this. I feel like I could talk about this for days.
This one actually is a podcast of our voice notes. Just like how we said the
Yeah,
last one, this one is really
right.
our voice notes.
For sure. For
Are we
sure.
proud of
So,
that?
um, yeah. So let's get into it. How do you feel have you well, first of all, have you always been entrepreneurial minded?
Actually, no, I don't think so. I definitely have been employee. Like I am an employee. But I always had the best jobs. I was known for getting the super cool jobs. I got paid to go to a different country every month with 30 adults. I was their trip leader. I did that for 6 months. I worked for Living Social during the startup days and basically got paid to drink at my desk. I've always had super cool jobs and I usually had three of them at a time. And so while I wasn't entrepreneurial, I was the person, shocker, that you brought in to clean up your operations and clean up the back end of the business. And it was, to be honest, I was hired by a lot of white men in my 20s who wanted, I feel, a bit of sass. They would say, like, I need someone to just tell me what to do. And some of it was racially motivated because it's like, okay, you're looking for a black woman who's sassy. And I really wouldn't even consider myself sassy. I'm just very direct. But it was watching different business owners and how they moved and seeing how sloppy they were. Seeing how some of them didn't move with intention, some of them didn't move with integrity. That was the motivation. Aside from I do not ever want to work for anyone ever again. It was just seeing, okay, I know what's out there. I know how people are doing this, and I can do this way better and be a really great person and give back while I do it.
100%. I feel first of all, I can totally relate to hiring you to clean up the back end because I've definitely done that. And so thankful for it. But we'll get into that. I have always grown up around entrepreneurial minded people. My mom wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but she also needed to bring in some money. So she opened up a little consignment shop right literally attached to our house, and she had a little intercom. I'll never forget it. She had a little intercom and bells on the door, so if somebody opened up the door, she would just like run across the deck into the other space. And I don't know, I think that was always just really inspirational to me, that she just kind of created the life she wanted. She never really wanted like a ton of money. She just wanted quality time with her kids and wanted to have, the amount of money so she could just get by and feel good about the choices that she was making. And so that was that. My uncle owned a bar. My A couple other aunts and uncles have done their own businesses, and I think that was just always instilled in me that I could have whatever kind of life I wanted. So back in the day, in like 2012-ish, that was a big time for blogs. And I loved reading blogs. I loved fashion. I loved makeup. I loved yoga. I loved fitness. But I couldn't find one that combined all of them in a way that felt authentic and real to me. So I might find one, but maybe it wasn't updated, or maybe it was like the language like a little too woo woo for me. And so I just created my own. And I didn't really do it with the intention of making any money. I really just wanted to have a creative outlet, which I always kind of like internally roll my eyes at when people say that, but it's so true. I really just needed a space to just put down the things that I was thinking. And after my teacher training, my yoga teacher training in 2012, I just remembered being like a broke college kid and wanting to go to yoga, but not being able to afford it. So I was like, what can I do for those people? And I started this YouTube channel, and I did it religiously every single week. And then one day, like 2 years later, I was poking around in the back end and there was a little monetization button. And I was like, what is that? And that's how I first started making money from blogging, YouTubing, and, doing this whole thing. So then it kind of, then I realized like, oh, this could be an actual business. And it has. I make really good money and I'm super happy doing it. And I think there's nothing greater than being in business for yourself. For me, I also feel like there are people out there, they like the stability, the consistency, just knowing that all I got to do is show up, put in my hours, and I'm going to get that paycheck. Whereas for me, I got to work or I don't make that money or something, like I don't have that stability, but I kind of thrive in a place of, ooh, I don't know what's going to happen. Like that kind of lights a fire under me and I just get excited. But for some people, I can understand that that doesn't work for them. And if you're that type of person who's listening, then this podcast is probably not for you.
Or unless maybe you want, a side hustle. I think that's like it's such a it's there's such a push that you have to be one or the other, right? And it's like you can also be in the middle. That's what I did for a long time. I had literally until life made easy, I've never had just one job ever in my life since I was 14. And so this is a blessing. The fact that I can live this life and travel and do what I want and only work one job, like this such a huge thing for me. But for a long time, I was in the middle, and that's what. There's no rush. I think that sometimes we create these side hustles and it's going well and we're like, okay, well, how do I make this into my main gig? It doesn't have to be, and you like with the blog, you could have said, well, cool, whatever I make. You decided to strategize on it, which obviously we're going to talk about today. But if you're listening and you have a passion, like you don't have to monetize, but also even if you do monetize, the money doesn't have to be the motive. The money can just be a reward for you having a creative outlet, which is the goal, to have a creative outlet that you just do and you make money. That's fire. You don't have to take it farther than that. So yeah.
I have to laugh at you saying that you only do one job because I get that you only work for yourself,
Yeah.
but you wear like 12, honestly, 1,200 hats. You don't wear 1,100 hats. It's 1,200.
It's
And I do
facts.
the same thing. Like I don't really work for anybody else. I'm only working for myself, but I'm a personal trainer, yoga instructor, YouTuber,
Yeah.
blogger, like influencer, all the different things. And I love it. I think that's where I thrive in doing different things. I could
Absolutely.
never be a person who sits at their desk and just like I did data entry. That was one of I've had a trillion jobs growing up. And one of them was data entry, and it was mind numbing work. But I
Miserable.
learned here's something though from every bad job and every good job I've had, I've always learned something valuable. Even if the value was like, well, I never want to do this again. Like
Yep.
elderly home, I did elderly care when I was in high school. I definitely was not qualified. And every day I would open up that poor old woman's bedroom and think, dear God, I hope she's alive. What am I going to do if she's dead? Like, it was like a weekend thing. And I just had to cook some meals, which, by the way, 16 years old, cooking meals and cleaning their house and just like making sure everything was okay for when like the nurse got back on Monday. And it was, man, I can't believe I did it thinking back. But yeah, you learn something from every job you do. Do you agree with that?
Entirely. Before we dive in, can you give me a lesson that comes to mind from one of your jobs?
For sure. So this is from the data entry job. The owner of the company, I'm not going to say who the company is because it's actually a really big company. And if you go to any very high end restaurant, there's the product, it was like an after dinner mint, is going to be at the little hostess table.
So
So anyway,
specific.
I know it's so niche, but they had so much money. Anyway, the owner of that company, I can't even remember his name. Let's say it's Harold. He had an alternative persona, and his name was David. So he would go to
Okay.
the shows. He would go to like these shows in Las Vegas or wherever, these like restaurant shows where restaurant owners or chefs or whoever would come through and try all the different after dinner mints and give an honest review. And he was like, I never would tell people, nobody knows that the owner's name is Harold. I am David and I am a sales rep. And he's like, that way I get honest reviews. And he's like, he's like, I also don't like people knowing that they have direct access to the owner of the business because I feel like they're going to treat me a different type of way. And I just want them to think that I am an employee. And so when I have set up,
You exposing a lot here. You
I
exposing a lot
know.
here.
I know. Well, so here's the thing though, when I was first setting up or like and trying to do like brand pitches, for example, and I didn't have any help, I would have a different email address with a different name and say like, "Hi, I'm representing Yoga by Candace," and go through with it because sometimes like they'll just treat you differently and they won't say certain things to the owner's face that they would say to the employee's face. So that was
That's
a
actually
as a lesson.
a TikTok I saw recently saying that this woman, when she goes to stay at hotels, her assistant emails them ahead of time with requests and says, "Hey, I'm emailing on behalf of Miss Burke. She'll be arriving tomorrow. Could you have this in the room or da 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 da?" And she says she gets great service. They're always like waiting to greet her, and yeah, it entirely makes sense. Something I'm going to take that with me. I like that a lot.
I like that. Do you have a life lesson from or a business lesson from a job you've done?
I do. One that comes to mind is, again, I've had 57 million jobs. I've been a maid in Paris. I have been a babysitter. I've been a teacher at a daycare in Paris, like just the randomest of things. Um, but when I was living in DC, again, I always had like 3 or 4 jobs. I had a weekend job at a nail salon, my dream. And so I got my nails done for free while I was there, the dream. There was this one time, it was a Saturday, it was super busy, and this woman was late for her appointment. And the owner was a super sweet woman. She was right next to me when I answered. And I have great customer service vibes. Like that is where I kill it. But when I said, the woman's like, "I'm parking. I'm right around the corner. It's so hard to find parking. It's downtown DC. I'll be there in a second." And I said, "Okay, no problem. No rush. We'll see you when you get here." And I hung up. The owner was like, "Don't ever say that. There is a rush. She's late for her appointment. Her being late for this appointment is going to hold us up with all the other appointments to come. Other people are on time. There's no reason that they need to suffer because of this one person." And yeah, that has just changed the game for me moving forward. It's also helped me with things like in emails. I never say, "Let me know if you have any questions," or "Let me know if I can help you with anything." I never say anything like that. I actually don't want you to email me back. I hate email. So I don't ever want to give any type of false pretense as to what I actually want. And what I want is for you not to email me back, and I want you to be on time for your appointment. So yeah, it's always stuck with me.
So what would you say moving forward? Like let's say you owned a store or something and or like you owned a company where you were offering some sort of service and somebody's like, "Hey, I'm running late." What would you say?
Ooh, I now when that happens, I'll usually throw out like I'll usually lie, and I'll say I have a meeting that begins when this meeting is supposed to end.
Mhm.
And so that way it's like, okay, but I still have to leave at this time. And then if it gets to that time and I decide I want to stay on the call, like stay within the call or the meeting longer, then I'll say, "Oh, I'm going to push them back about 5 minutes, so that we have the time." But even if I do have time, I usually always will lie and say that I have a meeting right after. And that's because of precedent. I never want to set the precedent that it's okay for you to waste my time. I'd rather you waste my money than I can get the money back. I can't get the time back. And so, yeah, I lie.
Yeah, I did that not intentionally, but I was running late for like a like my own I had a personal trainer and I was like, "I'm so sorry I'm running a little late." He's like, "Hey, we have till 10 and then we'll get what we can get done." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And it really is. I'm only hurting myself by running late, whether or
Yep.
not it's my fault. So when he was just like, "It's okay. We just have this 1 hour and I'll see you when you get here and we'll work and it'll be fine." Um yeah, so
Yeah.
all
All
right.
right.
Let's dive in. Building a brand. Building a brand slash brand values. That's the first thing we wanted to talk about because it sets the foundation. So, how do you want to kick this off?
So what comes to mind for me is, how we say this a lot, and you see this narrative a lot, that for a lot of people you're seeing their highlight reel and you're not seeing the work that they've had, they put in before. A lot of people come to you now, they see the follower count, but they don't know that you've been hustling since 2012 with the blog.
Right?
Um, And I think it's the same thing with brands, with building a brand. A lot of people. So, for example, I started Life Made Easy December 2020. Entirely popped off. Life of my dreams, business of my dreams.
Why don't you
But
just quickly give the background as to what Life Made
sure.
is, just for anyone who doesn't know?
So, Life Made Easy is an umbrella term. It's an umbrella phrase. It's my LLC. It is my baby. And on the personal side, I help women master themselves, love themselves, and still self confidence. And I do that through learning, workshops, digital courses. On the business side, it's everything we're talking about today, business strategy, also confidence in business. And I particularly focus on either new business owners who are like 6 months, 1 year into the game, or super established business owners who have the successful business and then their shit's a mess. I am the person that you bring in to clean it up, and I love it. All of the things that you don't want to do, I want to do, and I want them to be clean. But also, what makes me different is you can hire a lot of people to come in and do that for you, and then they leave you, and you're like, well, what happens? I very friendly. I bully you along the way because I want you to learn how to do this and keep this up with yourself. So education is my vibe, education is my jam, and I aspire to just make everyone's lives easier, and I do that on a daily basis. And so with that, I launched Life Made Easy. I launched Life Made Easy off of a workshop, and you were there, all for the birth of the baby. For passion planners, I had an event called Track Your Way to Success, and that one event paid my rent for that month. And I was like, okay, well, there's something here, but people hear that I launched a business in December 2020. There was a lot going on prior to that, and one of the biggest holdups, and we'll get into this with people launching businesses and social media, is a lot of people don't want to show their face. I can't relate as a part-time narcissist. I want to bless the world with my face. I'm so cute. Why wouldn't you want to
Who
look at
doesn't
me?
want to show their face?
It is probably top three biggest struggles that I have to address as a coach for new business owners by
In
far.
that they just don't want to put themselves out there, or their actual literal face, they don't want to be on social media.
Both.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I also cannot relate.
Right? Because we hop on stories that like with no hesitation. I have so many stories I haven't posted. It's the opposite. Um, but yeah, a lot of especially women, they don't want to go on their stories how we do and just talk about a random subject. They don't want to do a reel. They don't want to give 3 tips or anything. It's like the biggest thing I have to hound into people. I've been doing that for a very, very long time. I've always been transparent. I've always been authentic. Again, digital nomad life. I was in Bali before it was cool. I was doing all of those things already and showing my life, taking people along with my travels. The brand was already there. Life Made Easy is just one piece of Megan. So Megan as a brand, as an entity, I was already there. That's why I already had a digital community to launch these things too, right? I didn't start from zero. And so my biggest thing that I always say to clients, whether I'm coaching them or working with them or in workshops, is, and I just sent a newsletter about this last week, you're not building a business, you're building a personal brand, because you're forever going to change, as I hope we evolve. Um, and if you attach your brand to what you do, you're screwed, because I promise you, you're not going to do the same thing forever. So my brand is attached to who I am as a person, because my values, they may change a little bit, but they're going to be pretty consistent because they always have been since I was a kid. So yeah, build a personal brand, not a business.
Yeah, and learn from my mistake, and don't call yourself Yoga by Candace, because it speaks exactly to what you're talking to, in that I, had finished my teacher training, was ready to do something with it, started Yoga by Candace because that was my current love at the moment, but it didn't embody everything that I was looking for in terms of that multifaceted blog of wellness, fashion forward, travel, and of course yoga, and then some fitness stuff as well. I was into all of that, and also really like to read on the side. Like, I just felt like there was a place for someone like me. And by calling myself Yoga by Candace, I really kind of put myself in a very tight, corner. However, I recently, went through the trials and tribulations of like, okay, what am I going to do? Because now I'm a personal trainer. Now I'm studying nutrition. I'm going to start incorporating nutrition into it. I also do like business coaching on this. Like, there's so many different things to what I do that fall under the Candace, which is, I guess, my umbrella. And so I was going back and forth, like, I got to change my name. I got to change my name. What am I going to do? I have to rebrand. And it was really holding me back for probably 2+ years.
Yeah,
And
we've been talking about it for a
we've
while.
been talking about it for a while. And so when I went to change my name on Instagram and I realized verified people can't change their name, I just thought, well, that's really funny. And it actually made the decision so much easier. And now I feel like I can move forward. I'm Yoga by Candace and I do way more than yoga. And that's, it just is what it is. And I think it's really funny. And I'm glad that I can laugh about it because I've talked to people and they're like, oh my God, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I'm just not going to care that much. It's just going to be, it is what it is. But for anyone listening, if you're thinking of, starting your own thing, definitely your own personal brand, super important, but make it a bigger umbrella because you will change. If you are an entrepreneurial minded person, you will change as you learn and grow and hone your skills and develop new interests. And it's just really important that your business grows with it. So it's really hard to do if you're, backing yourself up into a corner there with your name.
And also, in regards to that corner, it's also manifestation vibes. And this is something I always kind of beat into people is they launch and like you were probably like, well, it's just a blog, it's no big
Right.
deal. You don't
You think
know.
small. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. You don't know. And so for me, it's like when we worked together and we were revamping memberships and making shit clean, right? It's because I want this to be as easy as possible for you to sell to as many, whether it's 100 people or 1,000 people. I want Candace to do the same amount of work. And a lot of people, that's where my passion for efficiency comes in, is that they don't think about the masses and how big things could get. And if anything, they limit themselves mentally and think, okay, it's just going to be a quick thing. So yeah, challenge yourself and also just be open to the unknown because you don't know what's coming.
Yeah, I think also it's important to be open to the idea. I don't know. I feel like the face of work has changed so much from when I was, 14 years old, babysitting to all the way up those crazy amount of jobs I've done and you've done as well to now. Whereas I think I grew up with this very hustle mentality. Like I loved being a server in the restaurant world because I could log in, see everybody's numbers for that night, and I was like, I'm gonna upsell every single table tonight and make the most money because the more money you made, the more tips usually you got. So I was just like, let's go, let's work, let's hustle. And it was a go, go, go. And that's a great attitude to have, especially when you're trying to get something off the ground in terms of your business. But you don't necessarily have to work yourself into the ground in order to reap the benefits. And I think what you said is so important for people to have their mind open to, in that if you automate properly, if you set up systems, if you organize yourself really well, you can do the same amount of work and reap the benefits, serving more people, getting more sales. And that, you can reinvest into your own education, the growth of the business, or you can take yourself on a nice vacation, whatever you want to do. But I think it's important to understand that you don't have to work yourself to death in order to be successful.
Absolutely not. And like you said, that's where the systems come in, and it's just such a game changer, such freedom, right? That's all I want is choices, and automation definitely gives me freedom to make choices.
Love it. Let's talk about launches.
Ooh, okay. I actually got a little bit of butterflies.
Okay, I'll let you kick it off.
Well, what I thought of was, me and automation, because when I think of my launches, that's just what I think of is automation. Um, I don't know if we start with pet peeves, but I have one that comes to mind. It is a huge pet peeve of mine in regards to launches and like digital events or digital anything.
Well, let's talk about like what is a launch? What would
Okay.
somebody think about launching? Because here's the thing. I feel like there are two brains that have to work properly in order to be like a successful entrepreneur. If you're a solopreneur, you got to have the creativity side to create the thing. But damn, if you don't have that organizational mind, which I'm slowly honing that skill, but it's just not in my nature to be like, all right, how can this be automated? Like that is so you. And that's why I love working with you because you do teach. You've taught me so much.
Yeah.
But I was never like, I'm not where you are. I don't get excited about automation. I get scared. But I love the creativity side and I will just create and throw it out into the world. But I want to do it with intention. So I got to have that organization piece. So go ahead and tell us about launches.
Okay. So for me, a launch is whatever you wish it to be, right? Well, it can be a course, it can be an event, it can be a webinar, it could be a book. Literally, whatever you want it to be, is a launch. And so I'll speak about launches for me. Usually, for me, launches are either workshops, group coaching programs, individual coaching programs, or a random digital event. And so you tell me what yours is. My lead time in regards to launching is 2 weeks is when I'll usually start to promote. What about you?
My lunchtime will be one day sometimes. Like
Well,
I
yeah.
just will have a fantastic idea. I will work it for like 8 hours straight and I'll be like, all right, it's ready to go. When really I need to like pump the brakes, get the automation in process. But it's yeah, it's very fast. I'm always ready to jump in.
Cool. Okay, same. There are so many things that have launched that I've just thought of, and then they've been some of the most successful things. So I'm not anti. But usually my goal is 2 weeks. So if I have an event, which I'm exactly the same because I'm about to go on Instagram when we're done and promote something that I just thought of for Wednesday. So we are hypocrites. But the goal is 2 weeks. Is so if I have an event, my goal is to start talking about it 2 weeks before. And I notice that when I do that, um, I do get better sales. And if I'm consistent about talking about it. So with that, I will think of those 2 weeks. All right, I'll backtrack. Well, first of all, what do I need to do to have a successful event? For me, I automate on the back end. So what that looks like is I make a product on Squarespace to sell the event. I have a welcome email automated on ConvertKit. That's one of my biggest pet peeves is when you pay for something and you don't get a follow-up email. I think it's so tacky. So I send a welcome email immediately. And if it's an event, then you always get an automated calendar invite from me, which I think is a very clean touch and I get great feedback about it. It's free through Zapier. I highly recommend it. One of my biggest pet peeves is when you get an email and it's like, hey, we're meeting on Wednesday. We'll send you the Zoom link the day of. Or it's, time zones. There's just too much confusion that could happen. And I'm always trying to move from the perspective of how can I make this as easy for future Megan. Future Megan does not want emails asking questions for clarification because I hate emails. So I address as much as I can from the jump in that copy, in that welcome email. Here's what time it starts. Here's what's expected of you. Here's when you'll hear from me next. Because then people aren't messaging you, hey, what's next? I don't want to hear from you. And I don't mean that in a negative way. Anyone who's listening, you know I'm friendly, you know I love you. But I don't like unnecessary questions because my time means a lot to me. So think whatever you're launching, whether again it's in the sales page, it's in the welcome email, it's in the calendar invite, proactively address whatever questions you think people may ask you to hold down your future self so that you're not answering questions later. So that's one. And then two, when I think of launches, I think of something that I don't think people do often is testing tech. Like we spent what, an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours yesterday testing things out. And some people just dive in. And that's cool. There's a time and a place. But if it's your first workshop, maybe you practice with a friend, the weekend before, and you make sure that everything works. If you're going to teach a dance class, test the audio. Maybe you have to send them a playlist instead. Maybe you can't. People don't do that. And I think, again, there are just so many ways, especially in the launch phase, where it's your job to set your future self up for success and also for me to create a seamless and beautiful experience for the customer.
Well, and yeah, you touched on it there in the end too. I feel like it's also a testament to who you are as a business person or as a brand. Like you want your people to have a really fantastic experience so that they talk about it and tell other people. The last thing you want is like, oh, it was really clunky. I didn't get the Zoom link. I didn't understand, when I was supposed to log on. I couldn't hear the music. I didn't get the playlist, whatever. So all of those things are so important because honestly, nothing makes or breaks a business like a referral or a review. And so that there's a lot of power in that. So the more you set yourself up for success and in turn them, the people, the better everybody's experience is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What about
Is
you?
that
What are you
uh
going to say?
I feel like sort of wholly unqualified to talk about like to give advice on launches because I'm not quite there yet in terms of the welcome email. Like I really only do that for certain products. For example, I have this retreat coming up in Kenya in August, and I didn't even think to set up a welcome email. But you're right, you're going to drop that amount of money and you don't get a welcome
You feel
email.
me?
Like I was just going to email people individually as they sign up. But hello, I don't like emails either. And I don't want to say like, I'm so busy, I don't have the time. But I just think if there's a way to automate it so I don't have to sit down and compose that email and then remember exactly what I wrote for the next person to sign up, why wouldn't I just do that? So that's definitely going to be added to my to-do list. But
Yay.
I do it for my online programming, which we're going to talk about in a little bit as to how that all came about. I don't do it for items like a sweatshirt, like
Yeah,
merchandise.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but for some sort of event where you have to show up or especially travel, I think that's really important. I
Beautiful.
also feel like it's the landscape of these sorts of events have changed too. I mean, I never used Zoom before the pandemic. It was like this
Mm.
scary word. I didn't know even what it meant or how it worked, and then you try it and it's like so easy. But it's really nice to have the confidence now to feel like I can hop on and lead a really great workshop that's super impactful and reaches more people than it would if I were hosting an in-person event, because not everybody lives nearby, you know. So getting being familiar with that technology is really important, I think, and just getting over any kind of fear of what you look like, what you sound like. Just if anyone's out there listening and just feeling confused or scared about putting themselves out there on social or being the face of the workshop, I just feel like just go for it. What do you have to lose? I don't know.
Just go for
I
it.
get that
And
it's weird. Like I remember, holding my phone like this and doing it when Snapchat first came out, and I kind of thought like, "Oh, this is so uncomfortable. I'm just talking to a phone." But it's a way to communicate with people. It's a portal to, an audience, and real connection, and you can find people who feel similarly, um, and you can therefore, scale your business that way essentially.
entirely. So real quick, I want to touch on something, and let me ask you first before I say this. What do you consider a bad launch?
Ooh, a bad launch. I feel like a bad launch is something that is not well thought out, that was rushed, that is money driven, that doesn't have intention behind it. You can feel those sorts of things. Um, I also feel like you have to consider the user experience. I went to a workshop with a very well-known yoga teacher, and it was like, let's just call her, Sally. It was the Sally show. She didn't seem to care
Mm,
about the literal 70 people in the room who had driven or flown in from all over the country to see her and to take a class with her, and it was very much, it just wasn't well thought out from our perspective. I wasn't there to be like, "Oh, Sally," you know? So I think you have to think about, what is the intention? What are you trying to deliver to people? And how are you going to ensure that people get their money's worth? What about you?
I love that. I entirely agree, and I especially think bad launches are attached to, like you said, moving out of income, moving for money, and not for the impact. And it's funny. I expected you to give me metrics on like what a bad launch is, because I know people will message me about their launches and when they think they're going poorly, but you didn't say anything about how many people signed up or this and that. You know what I mean? And it made me think of, I had a friend recently, she launched something and I had helped her flesh out what the product, what it would be. And I think it's great. And she messaged me the day before it was about to start. And she's like, I only have 2 people signed up. And I was one of them. And so many new business owners come to me with similar phrases. You said I only have 2 people signed up. And I heard that you have 2 whole people signed up on something that you have never done before. And so for me, I think it's also about perspective and what you're in it for. Obviously, if I had a 3-month course and only 2 people signed up, yeah, that's tough. But if it's an event, those are 2 people that you now get to interact with directly and personally, and prove your copy, and prove your product. And as well, when you feel like you've launched something and the date is approaching and you don't have the numbers that you want, hustle. That's, I feel like for me, that's when it comes in. It's not necessarily that you have a poor product, it's that your marketing is off. And so how can you again pivot? We're going to get into pivoting. How can you pivot and show up in an authentic and non-cringy way, and really just start pushing and start selling? It's, selling sucks. I hate it so much. But it's part of the game. It is what it
Selling
is.
sucks. And you touched on something so important. So I did a functional movement workshop. And it was, I knew the content was really good. I felt very confident in that, but I hate selling. I hate selling so much. So I would mention it a couple times in stories. I think I had like 8 people signed up or something. And I was like, man, all right, 8 people is not nothing, but this is deserving of like 2,000 people. Like this content is so good. It's going to help so many people. What am I doing wrong? And I had like 3 days before the actual event date. And so I said, all right, well, I haven't done a stupid newsletter. I guess I better do a dumb newsletter. I hate selling. I feel like your inbox is like a sacred space. Like I don't want to drop in there with little sales pitch or whatever. But I did it. And I did it in a way that I was just like, here's what I'm offering. Here's how it can help you. Here's why you should take it. And here's what you can expect to learn from it. Here's the link to buy it. I think I had at the end of the day, I don't remember the exact number, but it was a lot of people. It was a ton of people. And all I did was send 2 newsletters. And so you have to just ask yourself, have I really sold? Have I really told? Because half the time people just don't know. And also have confidence in knowing that what you've created is worthy of people's time and energy and money. And I think if you just go about it that way, that's great. So just take a look at, what are your signups or what are your sales, and that can be information as to, what your marketing strategy is like and how can you improve.
Boom, I entirely agree. And in summary, you heard it here first. We both hate selling. I hate it so much.
Hate it so much. Why do you hate it so much?
I just same, I just don't again, I agree. Like inboxes are sacred spaces. I know what I offer is fire. I get great reviews. I get great testimonials. I don't run from feedback, but it's just something about, hey, here's this, buy it. I don't know. Yeah, it just feels weird. But like, I mean, at the end of the day, like you said, you got to do it, right? Like today, I have
Yeah.
a group coaching program starting in 2 weeks, and I need 2 more people, and I want to attract 2 more people. So I actually have to send an email today to promote it. So this was a great inspo because I literally have put it off all morning. I put it off all week because it's the worst. Whereas if I write an
The worst.
educational email, 10 minutes, done, sent.
And you know what's crazy? So here's the thing. I follow you very closely. I didn't know that you have this coming up. And so that's just like me living my life, being
Yep.
busy, but also I'm watching your stories. I'm just either not connecting or I've got other things going on. So I didn't even know. So if you just take the time to put it out there and say like, "Hey, this is what's going on." Like I can then share it, but I didn't know. So that's the thing.
Nope.
It's like you think you're being such a pain to everybody by selling, but half the time people are just busy. And I
Absolutely.
also was a part of this I don't know, affiliate program, and they did a lot of education around how to sell successfully. And basically they said people need to hear about something on an average of 7 times before they're willing to buy it. So you have to, if you're going to sell something, think of the many different ways you can tell someone about it without being like, "Hello, everybody! I've got this amazing workshop." You can just say like, "Hey, are you struggling with X? I have a solution." Approach it from that perspective. Approach it from sharing reviews of other people who have done the workshop prior or who have tried your product prior, and explain how it's helped them. Get creative in how you advertise and don't be so salesy about it. And I think that's a great way to approach your sale as well.
For sure. For sure. And that's luckily something I've had, even though I hate selling. I think probably because I hate selling, I get complimented often that I'm just sharing, like even if I'm having an event, I'm just sharing. I'm going to be there. This is where I'm at. Here's how I could help you. Come if you want, I'm not here to push it down your throat. So do not think of it as you, like Candace said, you do not need to be some sleazy salesman or saleswoman or saleshuman. You can, again, just share with the people what's going on because your people do want to spend time with you and they do want to learn from you.
Absolutely. All right, let's take a quick break and we'll be back. The last few years have been really challenging for many of us, and so many people have been struggling with their mental health. If you're struggling as well, BetterHelp is offering our listeners 10% off their first month with code YBC. All therapists are licensed, accredited professionals. Pay a low, flat fee for unlimited therapy with your therapist and communicate with your therapist as often as you want and whenever you feel it's needed. To check it out, go to betterhelp.com and use code YBC for 10% off or click the link in the show notes. Again, that's YBC for 10% off or click the link in the show notes.
And we're back. All right, so let's talk I would say, one of our strong points, one of our talents, both of us, is we can pivot. And we can pivot cleanly and strategically. So let's talk about the power of a pivot. Do you want to dive into an example of how pivoting has just elevated and taken you to the next level?
Yeah. I I think for me, COVID has changed so much about how I work because prior to COVID, the majority of my revenue was coming in from in person teacher trainings and in person retreats. Those are kind of like my high ticket items. Those are the things I was most passionate about and super fun too, right? Like you're learning about yoga in Thailand or you're on vacation in Greece with people who are like minded and the food is great and the weather it's just so beautiful. How would you not want to go and participate in something like that? So when COVID hit and we literally couldn't travel, I was like, all right, well, what am I going to do? And that's when I turned to being a little bit more open about the online world. And initially, I started doing daily online classes and people could join live. And I did like a pay what you want. I was just like, all right, let's just see what this looks like. But very quickly, I realized that I don't really like doing something in real time and then never really getting anything after that fact because with time zones and everything and one of the benefits of having a social media following is that you can reach people all over the world, but the downside is when you're hosting an event at 9 a.m. on a Monday morning, it's like 11 p.m. in Australia, so it there's a hindrance there. So even though I was recording those classes and putting them up online for rent or for purchase, it still just didn't feel like I felt like I could do better. And I also really love a subscription model because I feel like even though people always have the ability to cancel whenever they want, it gives you a general idea of how many people you're helping and a general idea of what you can expect in terms of revenue to be coming in on a regular pace. So I decided to create 3 tiers of online programming, 6-week online programming. And I have a posture tier, a glute tier, and a fitness tier. And it's essentially meant, to be done sequentially. Maybe you stick around in the posture one for a couple sessions and then you go up to the next one and then eventually you go up to the fitness one and maybe you just like live there for the rest of your life because you always want to be switching up your programming for your body. And that has changed the landscape of what I do so much. It is completely overhauled my business. And now the primary, revenue is from that. And it's given me the ability to work really hard on great programming that I truly believe in. I follow the fitness program myself, but work really hard on programming I truly believe in for like a week or so, film it all, put it out there, and then I can focus my energy on something else until it's time to redo the programming 5 weeks later. So I really love that style, and I'm just really thankful in I'm thankful. I like to thank me for me. You know that that audio sound. I think it's Snoop Dogg. But like, yeah, thank you to me for being so awesome and having the ability to just like pivot on a dime and make something out of nothing and roll with the punches. I think it's really important to be fluid like that, especially when it comes to business. How about you?
I entirely agree. And it's funny, you real quickly, you just mentioned turn something into out of nothing. And I feel like for me, my most powerful pivots have come out of like nothing, out of, or not desperation, but being in a tight spot. Because I remember watching your stories during 2020 when you were pivoting to the online and you were being honest, per usual, being honest with the audience, like, listen, I just put a lease down, like I just signed this lease. We're now in a pandemic. I don't know how things are okay for now, but I don't know what's going to happen. And I feel like that's where the magic can happen, right? It depends on how the person wants to take it. For me, I had a few pivots actually a few weeks ago that have changed the trajectory already of so much, and I see them now changing the trajectory of my business and me as a person. Um, in November of last year, I put a deposit down, the most I have ever spent. I think the most I've ever spent on anything educational other than college, because LOL. But I basically it's a 6 month, over $6,000 group coaching program with a spiritual business coach, and something just told me to do it. And I spoke to her, and the same day, I think we hung up, and I immediately paid the 4-figure deposit. And since then, I've paid about four of the 6,000, and that's a lot of money, especially when for people like us, we really can learn anything because we know that we can learn anything. So it's tough to take a step back and say, okay, I know I can learn everything, but it's also okay to learn and let someone coach me for once, right? And I know also for me as a coach, I want to be able to serve my audience and my community as best as I can. And that comes through me serving myself. So I invested in this program. I met with her a few weeks ago on a Tuesday, and I was in the States at the time, and I had some things coming up. I had some courses planned. I wasn't seeing much traction. And also in my gut, it just didn't feel, that feeling. It wasn't there. It was like, it's cool. It's obviously going to be a great product because I'm very intentional about everything that I make, but I wasn't excited. And so I spoke to her on a Tuesday, and she's like, well, you're into coaching, accept it. That's something I've been having a conversation recently with a lot of people, is like that I'm accepting that I'm a coach. I'll take it. Um, and we decided on, a direction that I could go. The next day, I woke up and something in me just said, let's do this. I canceled both of the two classes that I had scheduled. One was a mastermind, one was a 3 month like newsletters course. I canceled them, deleted them from the internet, and I launched a group coaching program, the one that launches in 2 weeks. And that I was excited for. I launched it to the Selfish Reset first, my private group of women, and the next day, I met with one woman one on one. And instead of joining the group program, she actually signed me, paid in full that day for a one on one coaching program for 3 months. And then the next day, I had someone pay in full for the 3 month group coaching program. And I want to say within a week, I had the next person. So I was immediately rewarded financially for making such a strong pivot, but also each of the women that signed up are my ideal client. Like, they are my ideal person that I want to work with. And so yeah, I was literally rewarded for making that pivot and taking a risk within less than 24 hours.
I think that's such a testament to making sure that what you're putting out there and what you're doing feels really good in your heart. Like, even though you know the product was going to be great, the mastermind was going to be amazing, if it didn't feel right in your heart, then it's going to translate. It's energy, right?
Yes.
Like, I know it's a little silly to get kind of like woo woo about it, but I truly feel like if I'm not excited about something, if it's not a hell yes for me, it might as well be a hell no, because I don't want to do something that I'm halfway into. I just
Yep.
feel like I'm a really bad faker. I can't feign excitement or enjoyment if I'm not into it.
Absolutely. And like you said, it shows in how you sell. It definitely, even if someone thinks that they can fake, I still would argue that you can see it.
Yeah, I'm a bad faker. I
Me
can't even
too.
pretend. Yeah.
I just don't have the time for it.
What would you say to somebody who feels stuck in their current situation, who knows that they need to pivot, but they're being held back for whatever reason? Maybe it's fear, maybe they don't know, like they know they need to make a change, but they don't know what that change would be. What would you say the first step is to moving forward?
Other than booking a consultation with me, I would say, as hard as it is, every single time I'm in that position, I just have to sit down and sit with it. And it is the worst feeling ever. It sucks. I hate it. Every single time, though, I literally have to talk to myself and say, you already know what you got to do, and you just got to listen. And that's your only job, is to listen and detach from this outcome that you have in your mind. Because Candace opened the studio, she signed the lease on intention factor. She thought she was about to have these yoga classes and these in-person events, and instead, you now have like a full roster of dope clients and you have these online programs, you really have to detach from what you think was about to happen. Because it's also, for me, in regards to manifestation and just life, it's not my job to figure out the how or the when. It's just to ask. And so, whoever your creator is, whoever that may be, like ask for help. And I know it sounds crazy. I know this is very woo woo. But in my real life, as a as a walking, functioning human, I struggle with asking for help, and that can translate sometimes to the spiritual world as well when I'm seeking guidance. And so, before you go to bed, ask a question. This is something I do often. Ask yourself the question. Whatever you're stuck on, ask it before you go to sleep. Every time I wake up, I have the answer. Or I keep asking for a few days and I get the answer. While you're in the car, just ask. While you're sitting there thinking about it, just say, hey, can you help me figure this out? Again, whoever you're talking to. And again, at the end of the day, you're talking to yourself. You already have the answers. It's just that you have so much noise that's blocking you from hearing what's being told to you. And so, yeah, that's my biggest thing, honestly, is like, don't act, which is the hard part, right? It's like to just sit for a second. And for me, when I do act, then I kill it, then I crush it.
I think that the passion planner has helped me with that a lot because it's if you guys have a passion planner and you look at the very front, it explains exactly what to do to meet the goals that you have. So you can apply those same lessons and strategies that they use for these like larger than life goals and apply it to the one thing that you're trying to work on. And then if I can't seem to figure it out that way, or the listening to myself is not happening because I can envision like three different scenarios and I'm just not sure which one to go with, I'll just talk to somebody that I really trust. And I think when you're in the entrepreneurial space or you're a solopreneur, you become so self-reliant and you kind of have this, you do have a bit of an ego because you're like, well, I know what I'm doing. I did it so well thus far, why would I want to listen to somebody who doesn't get it? But I think if you have another friend, like I will always go to you and I'll reach out to
Same.
you and you can always do the same for me. And I have a couple of friends who also understand this space a little bit and I'll just say like, okay, here's the situation. What do you think about this? And I know that they're just going to give their honest opinions. And then I can do what I want with those opinions. Those opinions don't, they're not, set in stone. You follow your heart ultimately, but sometimes you get a perspective that's totally different that you never would have seen because we're focused this way, but somebody else might be coming in, from the side with a different observation. So I think it's important to definitely listen, like you said, journal it out, ask the questions, and then talk to the people that get what you're doing.
Absolutely, especially the talking part. Like I couldn't be about this life if I didn't have people to bounce ideas off of. Um yeah, I just couldn't do it. I know for a fact. I'm so grateful for friends like you and Bambi and being able, because also
Same.
it's having people who know your brand, right? Because there are certain people you would never ask questions about what to do next. You
Absolutely.
don't care what they have to say.
Absolutely.
But when
And
you have those people, go ahead.
I also think there's something to be said too for partnering up. I mean, this podcast was born out of a sense of frustration with the pandemic. We weren't really sure. We were just feeling kind of blah, and we're like, let's just do something fun that we really enjoy, that is business oriented, and that like here we are, and now we're reaching two different audiences and creating something, hopefully that people enjoy and are excited to listen to. But that's I think there's power in partnering up too, and even if it seems like you do something so different than what I do, but together we were able to come together in a way that makes sense
Collaboration over competition every day.
every day. Is there anything else you want to add about power of a pivot?
Oh, I think my last note is you got to trust yourself, you know? I think that's a key to entrepreneurship as a whole, but it's really trusting your decisions. Um, because arguably the other side of a pivot is sticking with your shit, right? And knowing that you made the right decision. It can go both ways. And so if you put yourself in a place where you trust the decisions that you make, then I feel like when you make the decision to pivot, you're not backtracking. Because some people may think, oh, I'm going to pivot this way, and they dive in and then they come right back out. They get a little scared. Whereas I think we pivot and we're all in, like we're jumping into the ball pit. And so that's, I feel that comes because we have one, that clarity and that conversation with our gut, but also at the end of the day, we trust the decisions that we make for ourselves. And so, yeah, my resounding be sure you have it, is trust in yourself and the decisions that you make for yourself and your business.
Yeah, and don't forget to, I think I would add to that, don't forget to add in expertise in other areas. Like we as a solopreneur or entrepreneur, you may feel like you know everything because you've been able to get yourself this far. But if there's something that's holding you back, for example, found that Instagram was like, I don't know, I've been having like a weird relationship with Instagram and losing followers for seemingly no reason. And I hired someone to like just take a look at my account and give me some feedback. And to be honest, I don't know if it was worth the 99 bucks I spent or whatever, but I did get a couple tips, and I it just had a different perspective, and that's all that particular person does. So hiring an expert when you need a solution, you're only going to learn from that, and it might be a good it might be a good lesson. It might be like, oh, I'll never do that again, but you're going to learn something for sure. So I think it's okay to hire other people. When I needed to take a look at like where my money was being spent and understanding that there was improvement for automation, I hired you, and I'm so grateful that I did it. And
Yay.
it's completely changed everything in the back end of my business. So I think it's really important to just understand that we don't have, even though we might be able to do everything, we don't have to do everything. And sometimes we can't do everything. So we need to hire experts.
Listen, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do anything, but like I want to do everything.
Right.
Yeah, the daily struggle.
Right. All right. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
One of my favorite topics as a coach and educator is productivity. I'm constantly on a mission to be as efficient as I can in order to have more time for the things and people that I love. I manage myself like a business, and I do that with my passion planner. I was introduced to passion planners during a really dark time in my life, and I don't think I would have made it out without them. If you're ready to live with passion and create structure for yourself in a fun way, I cannot recommend them enough. You can use the promo code Megan1, that's Megan1 at passionplanner.com for 10% off, or click the link in the show notes. Happy planning.
All right. We are going to end on the power of showing up, talking about scaling and reaching, and maybe we'll get into a little bit of social media. So, what do you mean when you say the power of showing up?
Oh, man. I mean, a few things. I mean, one on the back end, showing up for your business, what needs to be done today, um, showing up for yourself as a CEO, as a boss you are. How do you need to nourish yourself to make sure that you're okay to run this business? And if you have a team, how do you manage? How can you manage a team if you can't manage yourself? And then on the social media front, I mean, actually showing up. And I think that a lot of people, again, with the whole selling conversation, they think that showing up means that you're always selling, right? It's like you're talk. Oh my God, actually, one of my biggest pet peeves is I know I follow business accounts or just people, but it's when they only talk about their business. Like I can't stand it. I can't stand it. You're basically then following for a never ending commercial, and who's ever wanted that? And
No,
so
thank you.
no, thank you. No, gracias. So showing up online, but showing up as yourself, showing up authentically, showing up like sharing. I think that's something that we both have in common is we really do share our lives with people. They may think they see it all, but you're not even close. But we do share a lot of ourselves with people, and that's part of brand building. It's also really fun. I really love it. I genuinely love showing up authentically as myself online. But yeah, I would just encourage everyone to show up authentically and leave the strategy behind sometimes. Just have fun. Like, just show up as yourself. Say what's on your mind. What did you talked like the perfect example, was
If you bring up the kale chips,
it's the kale chips.
I've never had so many messages in
Candace,
my DMs. Oh my God. All right, so let me explain what happened.
please. I'm
I
crying.
was so hungry. Have you ever been so hangry where you're like, damn it, I just need some food right now? So I bought these Brad's kale chips. It's called like Cheese It Up or it's like something silly. They're so good. They're the only kale chip I found that has no sugar.
They're my
Anyway,
favorites.
I was scarfing them down on the drive home. And when I bought my car, because I bought a new car a couple months ago in August, and I was like, when I get my new car, I'm not going to eat in this car. Well, that went out the window. I've got kale chips like flying everywhere. Oh my God. And I get to like almost the bottom of the bag, and I'm like, oh my God, that little like keep it fresh packet, it's like silica gel or whatever. I was like, oh my God, it's not, there isn't one in here. Did I eat it? And the whole drive home, I started feeling sick to my stomach. I'm like, oh my God, I ate it. I'm going to die. How am I going to explain this to people? Now I'm going to have to get an x ray. And like, do they fish it out of me? Like, what happened? Like, what is
Uh,
going to happen? So I get home and I do this story and I'm like, guys. And then as I'm saying it, I can like feel the kale chips in my teeth. And so I'm like up close, like, oh, yeah, I have kale chips in my teeth. I explain the whole story. I have never had so many messages in my DMs like, I have never loved you more. This is so relatable. I can't believe it. Da da da. And it had nothing to do with my business. P.S. I'm totally fine. I don't think.
she's fine.
I just think there wasn't one. Like that one missed it. Whoever was like putting the silica things in, they were snoozing on the job.
Oh my god, your messages that day though, like I think one of them was nice knowing you. Like it's
Pray for
over
me.
for me. But yes, because you were just I mean, again, we're not afraid to laugh at ourselves, right? It's like how I post my falls. Like I've had so many DMs like, oh my God, I can't believe you post yourself when you fall out of headstands and handstands. And I'm like, it happens. So
Who
why
cares?
wouldn't
Yeah.
I? And I literally laugh as I fall. Who cares? And I think the reason why there's such an attraction to that is because it is unfortunately so rare. Everyone wants to be so polished. Everyone wants to be just so. I recorded a video this morning and posted it with like sleep in my eyes about this dumb bird outside my door. Who cares? Like no one. I promise you, and I can't wait to put this on a T-shirt. This will be the first merch that I drop. Will be a shirt that says "No one cares" because I promise you, no one cares. Yeah, just and we need that, right? In a world that's just so again, just so polished, so filtered. Who has the time?
I don't like following accounts that are too perfect. Like if the
Mm-mm.
creator like if you're not going to show me what you look like first thing in the morning, I just can't with you. Sorry. Like it's
Nah.
not I just can't. Um so anyway, yeah, I think it's really important to show up on social media for sure. I think that oftentimes people who are ready to launch their idea or their product, they don't realize that literally anyone can launch anything, but you have to have an audience to give it to. And finding that audience takes time. You can't just launch your t shirt and then start putting your t shirt sales out there on Instagram if you've got nobody watching. And the way to get people watching is to just be you and share every little aspect that went into the creation of the shirt and what your day to day looks like and what little tips and tricks do you have. And essentially, I think of the social media, the feed, the permanent feed is a place for education to share what you know or how you help people. And the stories are how it's like us getting to know you a little bit better. So showing us deeper insight into your life. And that's the place where you can sell. But if every little thing I'm scrolling through on your permanent feed is a sale, a sale, a sale, a sale, you're not going to get any sales. So there's
Same with
different
newsletters.
spots. Yeah, same with newsletters for sure. Do you want to talk a bit about newsletters?
Oh, sure. I love me a newsletter. Listen, I love newsletters so much. One, I think I just really like the writing part too. Creative outlet vibes. When you just
You're
need
so
something.
good at it too.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Because before I knew you, it was a thing. Like my friends begged me for years to make newsletters. And I'm very big on, if you can't tell, I'll do it when I want to do it. And
Yeah.
so I dropped the Friday report, when I wanted to do it. But people see me now pushing out newsletters, and they don't see that I've been doing this since like 2018, 2019, to just anyone in my contacts. People who, there are people probably on my email list who, like, I interviewed for a job, they interviewed me and they just stuck around. So, no shame. But with newsletters, I don't really get the fear around them or putting them out, but then also I do because to be honest, I kind of hate them. And
Wait, I'm
like,
sorry. You hate newsletters?
I kind of hate newsletters. Um,
Receiving them or writing them?
Receiving them.
Okay.
Because except from a few, there are very few people like yours, short and sweet. That's what it is. It's just short and sweet. If I open a newsletter and it is a dissertation, I'm done. I instantly close it, unless there's a structure to it, which we can get into at another
I'm gonna
time.
dissertate my way on out of that email.
Honestly, I'm out. Because what that tells me is, one, it's just not your thoughts are too. It's just too much to read. Like, humans don't want to read. And I think that's part of showing up, is really understanding how people are going to receive you and how they're going to digest your content. Like, you've done so much back in just watching reels, right? Watching your reels perform, how they perform, switching things up. You got to watch how people respond to your content. I know for a fact that no human of that I know is about to read a 10 paragraph email from me, because I wouldn't even read it. And I read all of my stuff. And so it's being realistic. And also, just with newsletters, when I see an email like that, that could have been 3 newsletters to nurture your audience. You
Right.
literally could have just sat and broke them up and then pre-scheduled them. And now you're nurturing in the long term, instead of just popping up, every once in a while when you have a random thought, or even worse, popping up every once in a while when you have a sale. That's the worst part.
I think that if Reels has taught me anything, I have such a love hate, mostly hate relationship with Reels on Instagram. I feel like Instagram, let me just get off on a little bit of a or let me just speak
Tell
for a
us why you
second
mad.
about let me tell you why I'm mad. Instagram is trying to be like everybody else. So
Mm-hmm.
Snapchat came out and we got stories from Instagram, which was the disappearing after 24 hours. It's exactly Snapchat.
Yep.
TikTok came out and now we're pushing Reels, which are these very short audio based video content that competes with TikTok. So just say it like it is. You just want to be everybody else. I get it. Okay, fine. You're trying to stay relevant. I get it. However, if Reels has taught me anything, because I'm on this like I'm in the part of the like creator fund on TikTok. And the creator section of Instagram. And so we get these special newsletters that tell us metrics. What are people watching? How long does it take before they are ready to flick to the next one? The best performing reels are 7 seconds long. Do you know how much information you can give someone in 7 seconds? I'll tell you, zero. Like very little content that is educational. And my thing is like, I'm rooted in education because my focus is helping you feel better in your body, improving your strength, improving your mobility, improving your nutrition at some point in the future, living a healthy lifestyle. I can give you one little tiny basic tip in 7 seconds, but I'm a teacher at heart. I used to be a school teacher. I want to give you the whole lesson plan.
Yep.
So it's been very, very difficult for me to be like, ugh, you people, you only have an attention span of 7 seconds. What does that say about us as humanity? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's a
But
problem.
I hear you on the newsletter front because same thing. I will not read a big long thing for captions on Instagram. If it's a photo, I'm not reading your big long thing. I will read a couple sentences. That's all I can do.
Absolutely not. Or I would go to your blog if I wanted to read a blog post.
Exactly. But I do love a newsletter where it's structured. Like you have great little sections. I also love the Morning Brew newsletter. It's
Yep.
like a business newsletter. That one has great sections, and I can skip around and I can click what interests me
Exactly.
and go a little deeper. But for anyone who's writing newsletters out there, the long paragraphs, the dissertations are
It's
not
gotta
it.
go. It's gotta
Gotta
go.
go.
And I promise you probably see it in your open reads. And that's one thing where, there are a few things that again, I'm very confident, but I know that yeah, I'm very confident, but I still, of course, with anything else, right, you kind of have some self doubt. One thing I do not have doubt with is my newsletter content. I get great feedback, and also my metrics are there. I see it, and I've been able to double my list in the past year, and my engagement has only gone up. And that's while I continuously delete people. And I promise you that is because except right now that no one cares. And it's that people want everyone to read that every word, right? They want them to read, all the things in their minds. That's cool, but no one cares. That's why we have therapists. And so you gotta break it up. I am so big on structure. I'm the same with, well, again, we both used to be teachers, so I'm sure a lot of this comes from that. Uh, Lists, numbers, bold, italics, colors, they are your friend. So I strategically use bold for where I want to grab people's attention because I know they're skimming. The Friday report has like what, 5, 6, 7 sections. That's because I'm building community. I want them to know what to expect from me, right? And then two, not everyone's gonna want to care about what's up with me, but maybe they want the track of the week. And now they know every week they can come in and just look. Maybe they just want the TikTok, the fun videos that I find. They know they can look for that section. And so it's create a structure. I know some people, everyone wants to have beef with structure, but structure gives you freedom. Structure gives you freedom. And so if you are, this is kind of on a tangent, but it's still business strategy actually. So,
Absolutely.
okay. So if you are creating a newsletter, I cannot stress enough, create a structure. Another example of structure for me is I'm big on threes. So if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see I do videos of 3 things for da 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 da. Same with my emails. 3 books that have elevated my money mindset, or 5. Do numbers, or think of things from a before the thing, and then after the thing. So maybe if Candace is helping someone, she has an email with tips about getting better posture. She can tell you 1 thing to prepare for, how to get there. 2, what to do when you're there. And then 3, like how to maintain that posture. So there are different ways you can think of structure. It does not have to be stifling. The structure is for you to help you create this content quickly. And then 2, to build that relationship with your audience where you can be trusted and they know what to expect from you. Structure is your friend. I say that as a Taurus.
I think it's also important to what was I going to say?
Story of my
Mm,
life.
words. What are words? Play the game. What I mean by that is sometimes we get in our own way because we've been doing the work in one specific way. It's worked for us thus far, so it has to be the only answer.
Yep.
But and I felt that way about Reels. I'm like, damn it, Instagram, just be Instagram. You don't have to try to be TikTok. You'll never be TikTok.
That's me right
But
now.
but here's the thing. I started playing the game. I did 1 reel a day for 30 something days. And already I'm finally starting to get much more visibility. My follow count is finally starting to go up. My engagement is finally starting to go up. I can see in the back end people are clicking around. I can see what performs well. So when you play the game, you get rewarded. And the same goes for anybody who's super long winded, who wants to write that dissertation through the newsletter. Play the game, do the little sections, do the threes, use the bold, use the italics, get creative with how you deliver your information. Play the game, know your audience. Your
Yes.
audience has no time for the dissertations, it has no time for videos longer than 7 seconds. Play the game. And when you have the dissertation, which could be in the form of a workshop, or you have an
Yep.
hour-long class, then you sell that. And
Yep.
that's your thing that you sell. But reel them in with the quick little tips, the little freebies, the tutorials, the hacks, the track of the week, the consistency. Demonstrate your expertise and how you can help people by playing the game, and then you'll be rewarded. But if you don't play the game, if you're like, nope, I'm only going to do my 1 minute long videos on
Yep.
Instagram, which used to be IGTV, I'm only going to do that, you're just going to be buried, you know? That's not to say
Exactly.
you can't do them elsewhere, but you got to be open. It goes back to power of the pivot. You got to be open to pivoting and, essentially playing the game.
It's the perfect way to put it. It's playing the game. That's exactly what it is. It's like, I mean, it's the same with selling. How we just said how we play the game.
Yeah.
Not every
Yeah.
game you want to play, but hey, it's what we're in for. And that is entrepreneur life in summary.
It really is.
Is playing the game.
Do you have any tips for scaling or reaching more people, or any other social media tips from a brand perspective, not so much a user perspective? Only because I know eventually we're going to be doing a social media episode.
Right. I would say just as a whole, in regards to scaling, and I think just creating your business again, just as a whole, is I really can't emphasize enough, be yourself, but decide what that means for you. You know, what does that mean for being yourself? Because, like I said, you and I both share a lot of our lives on social media, and yet it's probably like 20% of my actual life. You know what I mean? And so decide, you know, what pieces of your life you want to show, decide what pieces of your life you want to have to yourself, and that's entirely fine. It does not have to be anything, you get to choose. But then with that, it's like, don't be scared to be yourself, because for me, I come from a corporate background. So I wore heels every day to work. I wore makeup every day. I spoke a certain way, at least until I got into startups, startups were kind of when I saw that I could be myself at work. But before that, you know, I spoke a certain way. I emailed people a certain way, and I was actually laughing yesterday when you and I were emailing back and forth about our meeting, and it was something like, "What if we do this or some shit?" And it was just like, I was like, wow, look at my work life. You know, I get to talk like myself. I get to speak like
Hmm.
myself. Especially
Hmm.
as a black woman, I don't have to code switch anymore. So especially if you are of color and you're used to code switching, um, you don't got to do that anymore. You can let that go because your people want you to be yourself. I am known for cussing. It won't change. It is what it is. The fact that I think I've only cussed twice within the past hour is admirable. And I could hide that from my story, you know, I could, but I don't. I cuss in my newsletters because when I'm working with my ideal client, with my ideal people, they accept me as I am, and I get to be myself. I love cannabis. I smoke on workshops. People know that to expect that of me. I talk about it in my stories. I could hide that, but I'm also a grown 32-year-old woman. If you don't want to work with me because of that, I'm okay. It's the same with us with tattoos, right? There was a time where us having all these tattoos was, oh my God, we're saying we're never going to get a job again. And my whole motivation, my first tattoo was close to my hand because I wanted people to see it, because if my tattoos are a problem, I don't want to work with you. And so when I say be yourself, I mean challenge yourself to really be yourself, because you really can put yourself in a place like me where I got to help you clean up the back end of your business. So I literally, in many different ways, I get paid to help my friends or people like me that I would actually go to a bar with and help them with their business stuff. And I get to show up as myself. I promise you, there is nothing more liberating than being
And
able
there's
to,
nothing more stifling than remembering that you have to hide a piece of you.
yes,
So when I started in 2012, like I just feel like the world was not as kind as it is now, or as open, I guess is what I want to say. So I actually smoke a lot of pot at night, and I don't think I've ever like put that out there on Instagram. I've never really shared that anywhere because I just felt like it was really taboo.
it
I've
was a
been
different
at
time.
It was a different time. I've been at retreats where I've overheard like some of my participants being like, "Ooh, I would never. Anybody's smoking pot. I don't need to see
Really?
that." Yeah, and I just felt like, "Oh my god!" But you also drink to excess, and like that's okay. Like this just doesn't feel right to me. And I just felt like, okay, I'm gonna go this way and not talk at this conversation because I just can't. You guys are not gonna like me. So I feel like it's really, if I were to start over, I definitely would. I wouldn't hide any of that side of me, just because it is such a big part of who I am. But also, in terms of picking my business name, would have picked a little bigger, not put myself into such a little corner there. But I think it is really important to just show up as yourself and own each part of that. And there's no shame in that.
At all, because
Yeah,
again, your people are there, like the ones who, you know, had a problem with that. That's fine.
yeah,
But also that's weird because I don't really care what anyone does. You know what I mean? So, and like you said, I'm never gonna judge anyone for drinking every day. You know,
right.
and so I would hope that with my audience, with my community, I get the same. Um, So, in summary, what if we give what's the biggest strategy, whether on purpose or
Mhm.
accidental, that has really helped your business? I know mine.
Okay, why don't you go first?
Okay, mine is, I don't think I intentionally did this, but it's community. It definitely is not how I started, and I don't think I realized how much of a community I had until I launched Life Made Easy. But that's entirely mine for sure. It's the community. Everything I do is for them. I'm super excited for the people that are to come to join my community. But my OGs, you know, the people who have been here the past year or so as I built this, they mean so much to me.
Nice. So, all right. So we're sharing a win.
Yeah, exactly. What's a win? What's a
Okay.
business
A
win?
win, business win. Mine's a little bit more selfish.
Hey, you know
I
how I feel about selfishness.
Listen, I know you love selfish people, so I'm going to be selfish here. And I say that like with love, right? Because if I'm miserable in my life, like nobody else benefits. But if I'm super happy because I'm taking care of myself and that happens to be called selfish, then so be it. I'm selfish. I am just happy that I get to get up every day and love what I do. I'll get up at 5 in the morning, sometimes 7, sometimes 4:30. It doesn't really matter. Whatever time of day it is, I'm like popping up out of bed, excited to start the day. And I always have a general idea of what the day will bring, but the nature of the beast is that it's always something different. And I that's where I thrive. I feel really comfortable there. And I'm grateful. I might work super long hours, but I get to do what I love. And it's something that I overheard Dan say it the other day, and it like just made my heart explode. He was like, Candace just gets up every day and she just like loves her life. I'm like, yeah, I do. I really do. And I'm so thankful for that because I suffered for a long time doing jobs that I didn't love, working for
Yes.
people that were, not me. And I don't like working for anyone else. I truly do not. And I just remember being a school teacher, 10 a.m., wanting to leave and go for a walk, and I was just stuck under these fluorescent lights in an environment that I couldn't thrive in. And as much as I loved the actual teaching part, that life just wasn't for me. But I still feel like I get to use the skills I learned um, as a teacher and use the skills I've picked up from all the billions of jobs I've done, and I've created something that I'm proud of, that I feel is impactful, and that fulfills my life. It feels like really meaningful work, and I'm just thankful that I get to do that every day.
I love that. And also on that note, shout out to any teachers listening to this. Let me
Yeah, we
tell
love you.
you,
We
you are
love
an
you.
icon. I will never in my I don't even know how I used to do it, to be honest. Waking up
Mm-mm.
and going to like you know what triggered me is when you said the fluorescent lights.
It's those fluorescent lights.
Oh my
Ah,
God. Absolutely not. So to all the teachers, you are iconic. We could not do this without you. You're the greatest to ever do it.
yeah. And that's a wrap. I hope that everyone listening has enjoyed episode 2 of Made with Intention. We'll be back next Monday. And on that next episode, we're going to be talking about confidence, which is like Megan's specialty. So you definitely want to tune in for that. Until then, you can follow me at Yoga by Candace, Candace. And you can follow Megan at Made in America, Maed in America on Instagram and TikTok. Hope to see you soon.